All right, part two.
Part two.
Of the RCM Innovators with Brian Robertson, the man who came up with this idea. This is where we're going deep. We're getting into the details, the meaty stuff. Yesterday we touched on some high-level topics. We set the table. We set the table for this conversation where we're going to get into some specifics that people can really take some action on.
Yes, sir.
You ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
So the first thing I want to talk about is we know that there's this common sense that American healthcare is like 10 years behind. Maybe some people would say it's further behind than that.
Yep.
And it's not really recognized, and in particular the back office, not really recognized as being, wow, powerfully innovative. Okay, so we know this.
Yep.
But VisiQuate, obviously a very powerful innovator. You've spoken throughout the series so far with very powerful innovators. What I want to know is, how can a health system self-evaluate? Is my organization innovative? Right? This is where you get to that intellectual honesty that I know you always promote. What do I look for to figure out, am I where I need to be so that I can innovate and start moving this ball forward, or am I not? What are the signs I'm looking for?
Yeah, great question. So there's several models that people use. I think using a model or a framework is a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the models that have sort of 5 or 6 stages in them.
Oh yeah, okay. Where
you've got to drive, it's like capability maturity modeling is an example in the like engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, there's very defined, discrete steps that you do.
Yeah.
You can't do it overnight, so you've got to do it over a 5-6 year period. I like the idea of people leveraging those models, and I also think that the more that those models are interconnected, so there's a high-low, high-impact learning organization.
Yep.
We look at the business analytics maturity curve.
Mm-hmm.
So if I take the high-impact learning organization, which in each box, right, you got to grade your paper as you go through it. You put that next to the business analytics maturity curve. We're now driving intelligent process automation. And then you look at an innovation model, and they all have those 5 to 6 stages. So in our case, we like to line them up. You can't really leapfrog to another stage unless you've done the learning.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you try to have them be reasonably interconnected. And I think that they have to be always personalized.
Yeah.
They're never like out of the box. The macro construct should be.
Yeah.
Because stage 5 is always optimized and breakthrough and ubiquitous awesomeness. So it's all the steps that get you there. So the more that they're tailored to your organization, your cultural style, but then you have to be very purposeful and then, top-down leadership, and you got to grade your paper, and then look for those sort of leapfrog moments.
All right. So you said it was learning. You said it was innovating, and then you said it was business intelligence maturity. These 3 curves.
Yeah.
Is there a place to start, or is it organizationally dependent? What do you think about that?
Is there a place to start?
Is there one of the 3? So if I know that I got to build on all 3, do I have to start with learning? Do I have to start with building my innovative muscle? Do I have to start with business intelligence?
Yeah, I think you have to do them simultaneously. So like an innovation maturity model and a high-impact learning maturity model are interconnected.
I see.
So I think you have to do those things kind of simultaneously.
I follow you, okay. Yeah, so if we have determined, as let's say we are ourselves health system leaders, and we look and say, okay, we're grading the paper honestly, maybe we're in a 2 out of 5 for our innovative capacity maturity, right? VisiQuate's been innovative for a decade, clearly bringing out some great solutions, and has the muscle built strong.
Yeah.
What are some things that health system leaders can do if they recognize we're not stellar? What can they do? Processes, organizing people, information, setting up environments. How do they make themselves more innovative? How do they build the muscle?
Yeah. I personally think it starts with you have to have a culture of innovation. And some have that culture more than others. Sometimes health systems are in very block and tackle mode. They're in acquisition mode. They have to wait for the dust to settle. So I think it's just being honest with where you are.
Yeah.
Everybody's starting point can be in a different place, but if you're going to get big things done in the next 5 years, wherever you are, you have to be very purposeful about staying the course, right? And having regular check-ins. And you got to have the values and the culture and the mindset.
Yeah.
It can't be a bumper sticker or a t-shirt.
You mentioned culture twice in that answer. I know it's very important to VisiQuate. I know this, having witnessed it absolutely directly. What's a cultural element that you've seen and fostered that lends to better innovation from an organization?
Yeah. Open mindset, intellectual curiosity, break it nonstop.
Yeah.
Incremental improvement over time.
Yep.
And sometimes big bang, like a lot of our discussions. I loved learning from people. Do you do big bang? Do you do incremental? Most of the answers are hybrid, and it depends.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, you can have large themes, but then you can have small. It's like somebody put it this way, and I loved it because it reminds me of the saying, 10 years ago. You can have a big strategy, but what are you going to do next Tuesday? So every Tuesday, you got to be, if you're going to go on a journey, that's fine.
Yeah.
And you got to think long and work backwards. But you can't check in quarterly. You got to check in every Tuesday.
Right.
I love that idea.
Yes.
Smaller increments, smaller iterations.
Yeah.
Constant pruning of what works and doesn't work.
Yeah.
Take advantage of bright spots and any kind of, if you get accelerator, leapfrog in some cases, do that. And always just be honest.
Yeah.
And no corporate BS.
The reason I laughed a moment ago is because as you were talking about strategy and then you got to face Tuesday. I think one of the best quotes on strategy that are out there is Mike Tyson's quote on strategy. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I don't.
Everyone has a strategy till they get punched in the face.
Till they get punched in the face.
It's just like, that's exactly the truth.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think he did that the other day again on the plane, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
I think I read that.
Right. Yes, I did hear about that. Oh, okay.
Hopefully he didn't bite somebody's ear off.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so I know it's a lot about people. It's a lot about people, and you were talking about culture. Culture comes from people. What I want to hear from you now is where we find that you can seek attributes that are readily in people, and where you aim to educate, advance, and grow individuals, right? So there's this balance. I want to hear about both. When you're looking for people to bring into an organization, to build a strong, innovative organization, tell me about some of the things you're looking for in the people.
Yeah.
And when you have the people in the organization, what are you doing, right? Like to train them, to teach them, to educate them so that they are becoming better innovators themselves.
Yeah. Another great question. So I think that you look for people with pedigree and experience in their job. If they're a subject matter expert in denials, great. But to your point, what we look for is, okay, you've got great pedigree and experience in your domain.
Yeah.
We also want people to be likable.
Sure.
Not take themselves too seriously. Be intellectually honest, intellectually curious. Like, we like people that think, what's next, why not? So I think that we're looking for that extra something that they bring.
Yeah.
Soft skills.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, and just, probably another one is just passion. Here's one thing I say, like, it's hard to join our team if you are not passionate about wanting to push your client to stage 5 analytics maturity.
Sure, totally.
Like, you can't just be like, VisiQuate seems like a nice company, and your colleagues, they want people that have the same passion.
Yeah.
So I guess you got to have a little bit of data geekery.
Fanatic.
But just, we have to be fanatical about helping people become great at decisioning.
Yeah. So in this space, right, in the Becker's conference space, in the RCM space, in the back office of healthcare space, we touched on this at an overview level in our prior conversation. It does seem pretty clear that complexity and specialization, hyper-specialization is just really at an increasing rate occurring throughout the industry. And as health systems try to keep up, they need to seek out partnerships. And I don't just mean like vendor relationships, I mean partnerships
Yeah.
with vendors that are able to address these more complex and more specialized areas of back office management in order for the whole system to move forward.
Yeah.
So now what I want to hear from you on is, as these healthcare organizations are partnering with the vendors that have the technologies, what's the right way, on both sides, what's the right way for it to go beyond strictly a transactional relationship where I buy a thing and you sell a thing and you deliver it, really into we have to work on this together. How can we, again, both as vendors and providers, get better at partnering to move healthcare forward?
Yeah. Well, first, I would love to abolish the term vendor.
Sure, yeah.
To me, it's a pejorative word. Now, there are suppliers of commodities, and there are, I suppose, vendors that have some out-of-the-box raw material.
Yeah.
And people always, there's this like, well, I want to be a partner, and it's kind of a euphemism for a vendor.
Sure.
I don't think that that's going to work, for vendors.
No.
I mean, if I'm a vendor and I'm treated as a vendor, I don't know. That doesn't feel.
It's like arm's length.
It doesn't feel like we can conquer the world together.
You sit at the kids' table.
Yeah, I don't want to be at the kids' table.
Yeah.
So I think, I know it sounds very, I don't know. Everybody, it's not a euphemism. I think that vendors that are trying to bring value add.
Yeah.
User groups and client summits,
right.
and I think a lot of people here are trying to be a partner and a trusted advisor.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be bad actors, and
Sure.
but you sift through that by earning trust.
Yes.
But I would say, to your question, so the way that I think about it, there are vendors. Now, see, I'm guilty of saying it. There are partners that are good at something very niche, as we all know.
Yeah.
They're narrowly focused. When you have a narrowly focused, in our case, we've been doing complex data curation for 20 years.
Right.
And there's nothing we haven't seen. So we bring a lot of it to the table because we've done our mastery, our 10,000 hours across a lot of FTEs. There's something very tangible there for somebody to tap into.
Yeah.
And there's, half the people here have that niche
Sure.
that you should take advantage of. The other half of the people here have like a horizontal capability, like a platform.
Right.
We have a little bit of both in our company. We're both a platform, but we'll go very narrow on denials.
Yeah.
But, so I think it's, you seek to find partners that bring something to the table that's beyond the commodity aspects of their solution.
So these partners, they're bringing the energy, they've got the innovation labs, they're asking the right questions, they're engaging at the right level. If you're a provider then, because this is what we're talking about, how does a vendor partner show up in the right way? If I'm a provider, I'm engaging businesses to help support me on these ever-increasing complexity issues. How do I show up? What guidance do you have for provider leaders to get this partnership moving in the right way?
Yeah. So it dawned on me the way you asked that, I left out, but I can tie it together here by saying both parties have to show up with the notion of good plug and play. So, for example, the data liquidity, open APIs, open frameworks. Yeah, you can have some special secret sauce and intellectual property, but if we're all going to do what's best for the patient and the healthcare consumer, and it's not rhetoric, we're truly going to all try to make healthcare better, then you have to come to the table with your Legos, right? And you have to embrace data liquidity and data sharing and the open exchange of ideas and real world best practices. Otherwise, it doesn't work if you're not compatible in a plug and play context. So you can't have like a closed, there are models that are still very closed and known for their protecting their IP. I mean, you can try that in today's world. I don't know that it works. I'm not an advocate of it.
One thing that I my sense is that I'm observing in the role of chief innovation officers at health systems is a shift, where the sense initially was the chief innovation officer is here to build it in-house. Like, what have you built this month kind of thing.
Right.
And it seems like it's shifting, so the chief innovation officer role is a combination now of building in-house and who are you engaging that's specializing, so the build versus buy decision is really being made by this individual, and it's not a mark against them if they choose to buy. It's credit to them if they've identified the right solution. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the reality is that there are some that embrace, I sometimes say a third.
Yeah.
There's a third of leaders, it doesn't even have to be the CIO, there's a third of leaders that their mindset is open, partnership oriented.
Yeah.
Right? The one in the middle is open but needs to be educated and wants you to prove trust to them.
Yeah.
So these might be the early adopters and the more radicals, and these are the trust but verify.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then, there's a third that are going to do their thing.
Have you seen any chief innovation officers that are doing things that you say, if everybody was doing that, we wouldn't be 10 years behind? What have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, I met some of them in some of the great discussions that we had the last 3 days.
Yeah.
The profile that stands out to me is the ones, we're touching on it, right?
Yeah.
They're thinking that the reason they're here is to learn,
Yep.
meet people.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Here's what I'm doing. So I think the more progressive side of, I think the ones that truly do want to do what's right by the patient,
Sure.
truly are, into like data liquidity.
Yeah.
I think it just comes natural for them.
And this is what you're saying. Be in the conversations, ask the questions, get into the dialogue. That's what you're doing here.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you're doing here.
I can't wait to rewatch some of our videos.
Yeah.
Because literally, I found myself wanting to take notes, and I'm like, okay,
Totally.
I'm not in that role right now. I'm trying to be Dan Rather.
Well, I'm on the other side of the table. Like, definitely, that has to be a note. That's a really great insight, great quote, revelatory stuff.
It's like a good business book, and I think we said a good business book. 95% of it is the same stuff you've read in the other 80 books.
True.
But repetition is the mother of skill.
Yeah.
The 5% take-home value is all I need.
Yeah.
So if every conversation, it's like, oh. So those little 5 cents add up in the mastermind concept, can be exponential.
So great little packets of insight that I've got from you, and that I think in conversations like this, other people can get from you, come in the form of so many Brianisms that you have created and invented over the years. But when you really coin a word, you pack. There's a concept embedded in just a word, and you've done this in many cases.
I can't help myself.
It's such a great high density way to transfer information to another person. Do you have 2 or 3 favorite Brianisms that you can share? Because they do. They're really dense ways to communicate good value.
Some would dispute that, but well, I guess one of them, VisiQuation, and this isn't trying to be a shameless plug. It's my way of saying data.
Yeah.
It's unlocking data.
Yes.
It's art of the possible.
Right.
Because we have the data, let's just VisiQuate it, right? For other people, that there's more data action.
Okay.
Right?
And again, from what I remember,
the one that we were chatting about the other day that hit me at a conference.
Yeah.
Because I'm big on ROI attribution.
Yes.
You should always pay for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Return on analytics.
Right.
In the world of process automation, and we're talking about bots a lot.
Yeah.
It's more than bots, but botribution.
Okay, great. Yes.
What is your botribution?
Yeah.
Margin?
Right.
Sounds hokey, but for me, it's a way to remind myself that bot should pay for itself.
Yes.
This one bot pays for 2 or 3, and but then certain bots, doesn't have to be a bot, it could be a script.
Yeah.
That could pay for the next 10.
Yeah, and having a solid botribution model is a way to understand the ROI of your investment in automation.
Just make sure that you're using. Again, I say that there's $1 trillion of waste. That's a big fund. It's a big fund to unlock.
Yeah.
So you have to like take some of that money. You have to put a little bit in to unlock the first one.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? But the goal should be to save 10 FTEs
Yep.
and then use some of that savings and reinvest.
Yeah.
It's like reinvesting your margin, right?
Totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that was VisiQuation, Bottribution, and one more that is one of my favorites, Financial.
Oh, yeah. Well, me too.
Yeah.
Although there's people from the early 2000s that think that was their word.
We'll let them.
I'll even let them have it.
Okay.
I'll even let them have it. I mean, it's just financials, right? It's bringing together the financial side and the clinical side. And if I think about what's in the curriculum and conversations, and you hear real work conversations of, it's no longer the back office, the people in the business office, and the people in case management or concurrent review, and the chief nursing officer and the chief revenue officer have conversations all the time.
Yeah.
And that hasn't always existed. When you're focused only on quality of care and you don't worry about the money, right? It wasn't that long ago that people said, like, we're focused on quality of care, you guys worry about billing, right? And vice versa. I haven't heard conversations like that in a long time.
Yeah.
So it starts at the conversations level, and then it gets down into the product or the widget or the process, the desk procedure, the job to be done, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Financial is just no margin, no mission.
Yep.
We got to pay for, right? That's where it came from.
Yeah. So it's clear that you're delivering an innovation. You're even innovating how to innovate. I love that this is happening. You're creating new language,
Trying every
great
day.
Processes. Before we close, I just wanted to create space, again, because we have a great audience here. This conference, the next conference that we're going to, we're really trying to bring the conversation about innovation to providers in this space. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with that audience in particular, your guidance? Because, again, you really are leading the way in how to innovate. What guidance, what other piece of information do you have for them that could help?
Yeah, I would say just be passionate, be purposeful, be relentless, maybe even in some fanatical, but also be realistic and know your culture and how you get things done in your culture. Maybe make some waves once in a while for the right reasons, though.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, whether it's incremental or big bang, it's got to be, once you start, you got to like follow it through.
Great.
It can't be quarterly.
Yeah.
Can't have quarterly brainstorm. You got to brainstorm weekly.
Totally.
You got to break stuff weekly. You have to try stuff weekly.
Yeah.
And even daily. So it just has to be this incremental journey, not large platitudes, like we said. That's my advice.
Over 10 years of watching you engage in conversation with health system leaders, I have seen that you are always first interested in helping them understand how to be more innovative in their organizations. And then second, if there's a fit to explore, then you choose to explore, well, what can VisiQuate do with you and for you?
Sure.
I think that's been phenomenal, and I really appreciate that's kind of like how you've led out with all your conversations. For health system leaders that want to get in touch with you and just really engage in the conversation on how can we accelerate our innovation, how can they reach you? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, first of all, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I do live in wine country, Sonoma County.
Come on out, yeah.
Like you. So it first starts with, if you know where Sonoma County is, come on out. We have an innovation lab, so it's not even really our headquarters. It happens to be where I live and you live and several others.
Yeah.
It's really our innovation lab, and our clients gave us the idea. Because I was like, I think we'll have to have headquarters in the city, and they said, no, you don't, because you live in Sonoma County. So we actually made that office more of an innovation lab.
Oh, it's true, yeah.
And in fact, the next 3 weeks, I've been on the road, but the next 3 weeks, we have no fewer than 4 different groups, and I love it. It's a half a day of ideating and throwing, Post-it notes all over the place.
Yeah.
And then, some wine tasting in the afternoon.
Wonderful. Well, that sounds like a beautiful way to innovate, man. Brian, thank you for this conversation. I know we'll have more. I'm excited for where this series goes through the rest of this year and into next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right on, man.
Cheers.
Cheers indeed.